Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being with us. I'm with a good friend of mine and an unbelievable business mind in this world, the co-founder and managing partner of Pro CFO Partners, Nelson Tepfer. So Nelson has spent his entire career helping companies, helping them grow, helping them scale, and helping them thrive. He's also helped them overcome their challenges on their path to success, and his capability for transformational contribution is at the heart of his abilities as a financial officer for these companies and his clients. So Nelson, I want to thank you for being here. Congratulations on all your success, and again, thank you for being here on this lovely Thursday.
Rick, thanks for having me. Always great chatting with you.
Great, same here. So let's just jump right into it. So Nelson, the first question I always like to ask, especially when I have such a brilliant mind on the line like this, is what is your overall assessment of the business climate?
So that's a fascinating question for me to keep answering because, the past 2 years have certainly highlighted, what do we think is going to happen kind of conversations. And what's important to recognize, and I know you have similar conversations with your clients from the type of work that you do and how you help them, it's forcing them to recognize that there is no wait and see kind of approach. There is no things getting back to normal kind of approach. It's almost, having those conversations at the strategic level with these companies and what do you need to do now to make you successful? So yes, the climate is constantly changing around us. For instance, we believe inflation over the coming periods is not correctly planned for many companies because many business owners have not run their companies through inflationary periods, and the real impact on what that looks like, I don't believe is correctly addressed, for instance. But when we talk about what is the business climate, it's recognizing that, yes, there's a climate that's going on around you, but it's far more important for you to recognize what you need to do for your company right now to be successful.
Wow, that's an amazing thing. And just from a layperson reading the news every day and CNBC and all these other websites and hearing what the impact that inflation is having on gas and things that we consume, I guess, you don't think about how it affects a business. So with that, when your clients call you, are they calling you because this is their biggest concern, or are they calling you and then you're alerting them to this biggest concern?
So very rarely do we get the call, hey, we heard inflation's coming, what do we do? Well, for us, that's always a byproduct of everything else we're doing. So we're taking on the role of the CFO just on a part-time basis for our clients. So when we get the phone call, there are variations of basically how do we help build this company for growth and success. We look at our role is not about giving them another report on their desk once a month, but how do we help build this finance and accounting function so it is systematic, sustainable, and scalable? How do we really build a framework for financial management and growth? Wow. Now, the questions that we get asked vary in form, but it is really those two factors that really underlie it. So they'll vary in form of, we run into cash flow issues, we're not sure where our margins are, or we're trying to build for growth and we keep running into these issues, or I don't have the insight I need to make the decisions they need to. But essentially, it all boils down to those two components.
So, this whole subject is fascinating to me. So from a perspective of if inflation is going up, and let's say that's the biggest thing on many people's horizon at this point in time, whether they think it or know it or not, how are clients increasing prices, and how do they know what level to increase them to, or what the damage is if they don't increase them?
So first of all, it's recognizing that price increases will need to be part of a regular scheduled conversation instead of just we haven't raised prices in a while, let's see if we can do that now. It's recognizing the need to be far more proactive in it to begin with. That's the start of the conversation. And, again, one silver lining certainly of the last 2 years as a business climate is I do believe customers are certainly more aware of this and open to those price increases because almost everything has gone up in the past couple of years for various reasons and all the other factors that have been spoken about. But the inflation side of the conversation is, so yes, this price increases, but to know what to increase to comes down to truly understanding your costs, truly understanding what your margins are currently, and making sure you're planning for where you want your margins to grow to. So as an offering, whether it's a product or a service, sometimes that becomes how do we package this product or a service so we can actually, put the increases we need to affect our bottom line, or how do we communicate the different aspects to our offering. to really be able to demonstrate the value of what we offer and how we offer it, that will allow us to push the increases through on a regular basis that we will need to.
So I would imagine once clients become your client, they understand what their true costs are and what their prices should be. But the person that's calling you for the first time or reaching out to you for the first time, right? What is the biggest aha that where they say, "Gee, I didn't realize my cost." How do you peel back that onion for them and get them to see that they truly don't understand their cost or their pricing structure and really what a CFO like you would do for them?
So that's pretty interesting. Some of it varies by industry. So we operate in, I think, nearly 30 industries at this point in time. So some of it varies by industry. There are some industries where that is always a harder metric to capture, the construction kind of industry or things like that, where you're there talking about their quotes of fixed fee, but capturing all the labor components and all the fun things like that, as opposed to the service offering where they look at their costs of, well, this is how much my labor costs me, and this is how, it's a straight line item perhaps on some things. So sometimes it's an understanding or having the understanding for the industry nuance to say, okay, this is how we capture it. This is how we actually measure the profitability in this, and this is therefore what we need to track. Sometimes it is looking back at what was done previously to recognize where errors were made. Very often the growing companies that are growing quickly, especially, don't have the bandwidth to think about things in that way. And they just would repeat the same mistakes without realizing it. As in, they bid on a project or they put in this RFP. Well, it's like, okay, but you put in 4 similar RFPs over the past 3 years. How did those do from a profit perspective? What was right or wrong about those? And what should we look at differently when we're going now for our 5th one again? So it really does vary is what we've seen, but it comes from that perspective of how do we truly understand this? So the biggest aha moments, to your point, very often is, how does this translate not just to gross margins, which many companies are better at capturing, the direct costs, but also all the indirect costs that go into what they need to produce. And how do they actually translate that to fully understand the actual cost down to the contribution margins and their net margins?
Wow. So you've given us so much to think about. My final question that I was thinking about, and now I think I know the answer, but I'd like you to kind of pull it apart even a little bit further, if you wouldn't mind, is what do you see as the biggest trend in, for businesses and your clients and all that sort of stuff for the next 12 to 18 months, not only around finance, but around how they grow and scale and all that sort of stuff?
So, and you can speak about this, and I'd welcome your thoughts on this side as well. The talent war, I do believe, will continue to evolve in how companies compete for talent. How do they motivate people correctly? And that remains a very big challenge at this point in time, and I believe will likely continue for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to say out to 12 to 18 months, but certainly over the next 6 to 9, I would say with some degree of certainty, that's going to be a very big factor. And this comes down to companies continuing to struggle with, especially in this New York metro area, but even around the country, we're seeing this, what is in person, what is remote, what is hybrid? How do we build the company and the culture that we want to in this environment that we're operating? That, I believe, will certainly remain a trend, as well as this, again, the supply chain aspect. I believe, we are starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel with what that looks like across our client base. So we're looking for that to kind of ease off as we move further down the line. But I do believe we will hit some new snarls as inflation starts creeping its way into that supply chain as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And what's even more amazing is you were able to weave in the capital and the finance side with what we do for a living, which is the human capital. So I really appreciate that. And that intersection is an important place for businesses.
Beyond a certain point, and you and I have had numerous conversations about this, beyond a certain point, most company issues become who problems, not how problems. And making sure you can have the right people on board to execute what we're trying to do. It's great to craft a vision. It's great to whiteboard it. That's always fun for business leaders to do. But you need the people who can actually go execute on it in every function of the business.
Wow. I love that saying. It's not a who problem, it's a how problem. So Nelson, I really thank you for your insights. And as anyone who's watching this can tell, there's so many layers below that Nelson can go. And I think that we could spend 10 hours doing this, but I really encourage anyone who's listening to this, who owns a business, to reach out to Nelson. So Nelson, I have your website as procfopartners.com.
That's correct. Yes.
ProCFOPartners.com. Your email address is Nelson, Nelson, .Tepfer, Tepfer at ProCFOPartners.com. Nelson.Tepfer at ProCFOPartners.com. And could you give us the best phone number to reach you at, Nelson?
Sure. Call me directly, 917-865-6597.
Can you just
917
yeah.
917-865-6597.
So again, Nelson, I thank you for being here. Appreciate everything that you do, and understand that what you do for your clients and why people call you, especially as we go through these times that are ahead of us, it's uber important that everyone has someone like Nelson in their life. So Nelson, thanks again. I appreciate it, and have an awesome day.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for having me on.